Welcome, parents, to another workshop. And the workshop, I'm Dr. Doris Sims, and we're going to be talking about anger management on today. So, we're going to be talking about anger management on today. And what will you learn? First thing is, I want you to know that anger is a natural human emotion. But what you do with it makes the difference. In other words, everyone gets angry. And even in the Bible, it says, be ye angry, but sin not. So anger is a human emotion. We all get angry. What will you learn today? Again, anger is positive and a negative emotion. And you're going to learn that the reasons why parents get angry, I think you could probably tell me better than I can tell you. And then we're going to recognize the signs of anger. If we do get angry, we have some indications of the anger before it goes out of control. And then we're going to understand the importance of managing your anger. What does it do for you and for the child? And then what are some anger management strategies? So let's first understand then that anger is positive. Many times when a person gets angry, it might give them the energy to do something else or to get something else done or to maybe even stand up for what they believe in. Sometimes people said, I was so angry until I got in the march or I demonstrated or whatever the case might be. So anger, that kind of anger is positive. When you feel angry, then what do you do with that anger if it is out of control? We need to know that sometimes it is not healthy. And so getting those tips and strategies on what to do is very important on how you manage the anger. And it also is a good indication to children as to what adults do with anger, so they model that kind of behavior. But anger can be negative as well. You can holler and scream and get out of control. And if that happens, then what can you do to get back in control? And let the children know that this is not a good thing to do. So you want to make sure that your anger, if you become angry, that you bring it back into control as soon as possible. Why do parents feel angry? If I were to ask you that, you would say, oh, they just get on my nerves. They don't listen. They don't obey. They don't do what I ask them to do. I have to tell them 3 and 4 times before it's done. Okay. So we do know then that raising children is a big and important job. And the people they're relying on is you and me. So it often involves balancing different things in your home, at work, with relatives, with activities. All of these are the kinds of things that you have to balance in order to have some kind of regulation so you can manage your anger. And when you're in different situations, sometimes that anger, you can go out of control if these things don't work as you had planned for them to. So then why do parents get angry? What are some of the causes? Sometimes it is because if you have a partner, they're not doing what you want them to do, or they're not helping you make the decisions, or they're not supporting you. Sometimes if there's discipline, you have some kind of disagreement with the kind of discipline. Some might say, well, that's too harsh, that's not enough, you're too soft, you're just letting them go. So many times these are the reasons why parents become angry. And their disagreements, and many times these disagreements can be in conflict with what you believe and what you think, and you can become angry over them. Sometimes children talk back, or they resist you, they don't obey you, and you become angry with them. They just push your last button. And so you become very angry. They might be rude or whatever the case might be. You begin to lash out and almost act like them. So, what parents need to do then is to pull back and resist the temptation to become angry with the child. Another reason, or other reasons, might be that a parent might be ill, or they might have stress at work. There might be financial problems and difficulties that can break up a relationship, let alone making a person angry. And then, or a lack of sleep, or many times parents don't think that anybody appreciates what they do and nobody really cares about them. So these kinds of things can be pent up anger in a person. The least little thing can make it spill over. So then how can we recognize signs of anger? What does our body tell us? Does our body tell us before we actually explode that we might be getting into that danger zone? What are those signs? Sometimes it could be a faster heart rate. You can feel your heart palpitating, or your stomach begins to churn. This is making me angry. You become agitated, or you breathe harder or faster. These are some signs that might indicate that you're getting out of control. Your face might flush, you might turn red, or body begins to tense up, jaw begins to clench, you begin to sweat. These are signs that you are getting angry before you actually go out of control. So is it important for parents to know what are the signs that you exhibit that you know you're getting out of control? And sometimes even negative thinking. And negative thinking is very common when a person becomes angry. And it can even make the anger worse. Negative thinking like, you're not listening to me. You really don't care what I'm saying anyway. And why do you always say always? Why do you never say never? Those are the kinds of things that can make a person very angry because they're thinking negatively about the person that they're dealing with. Next question is, all right, how important is it to control anger? How important is that? Can anger be controlled? And the answer to that is yes. A parent must control their anger because sometimes things that they can do can actually damage, injure, or even cause death. For instance, if you shake a baby, sometimes the parent is so frustrated, the child will not be comforted. They're crying, and they have changed them, they have fed them, and the child is still upset. So sometimes a parent might just grab the child, just shake them. What can I do for you? And they shake the child. That can cause brain damage or some kind of irreparable damage to the child. So you never shake a newborn child. You never hit them on the head. You never do anything like that in anger because it can cause serious injury, a disability, or even death. You want to be very careful with that. You never assault a child physically. So again, when we say, well, anger is completely natural and a healthy emotion. Now, many times people are told that anger is not. That if you get angry, you're going out of control and it's not a good thing. But that's not true. Anger is a natural, healthy emotion. And research tells us that it shows that anger, if it's done in the right kind of way, can be very positive. But uncontrolled anger can cause physical sickness or physical detriment, can be physically detrimental to the body. For instance, uncontrolled anger can cause heart disease. It can cause digestive disorders. People that become angry and can't get rid of it have trouble sleeping. But there might be other health problems that they exhibit simply because they are angry and they do not know how to work through that anger. We know that family violence and aggression is also linked to anger. So we have to be very careful that uncontrolled anger is what we don't want. Anger management can help you deal with your child and grandchildren in a very constructive way. You can be a good example for your child. If your child sees you angry, or someone makes you angry, for instance, I was at a department store and I was waiting to go into the parking space. And the woman that was there, she went around me and went into the parking space. Now, you know, I was angry. Well, I must admit, I did say a few things about her, you know. And then my son said, Mom, she got out of the car with her two children. So the two children saw her actually take the parking space that I was waiting for. My son said, Mom, what are you going to do? When you see her in the mall, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm not going to do anything. She knows she was wrong. And the children know that she was wrong. So there's nothing that I need to do. So I was trying to display a positive reaction to a negative situation. Believe me, it was very negative. So many times when we control our anger, we become a good example for our children and we become a good role model on how they should handle situations as well when they're in conflict. When you feel like that you are going to lose your temper with a difficult child, and believe me, we all know that it happens. Sometimes the child may not be difficult every day, but that day they are. So you tell them to do something, they don't listen, they don't do it. You tell them again, they don't do it. You wonder what in the world is wrong with you. Why do I have to speak to you this many times? So when you are dealing with a child that is difficult, you cannot lose your temper. You should not lose your temper because it teaches the children, teaches the child that you can be out of control and it's okay. It is not okay to be out of control at all at any time. So, although you're upset and we know that it's normal behavior, and we know that many times children can push your last button, and you're dealing with the children 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, year after year. And especially if you are a single mother or a single father with no one else to rely on, it is very, very difficult. So we know that this is not a surprise, but how you deal with the anger makes the difference. So we know that everyone has moments when they blow up, when they just can't take it any longer, can't do it anymore. But the more you learn about how to express yourself, then the more you're going to reduce the frequency of losing it. No one ever should want to be that individual that is always losing it. Well, you know, they always get mad or they get upset all the time or every little thing gets them upset. And no, you don't want to that let anyone, you don't do not want that to be said of you. You want to make sure that you deal with the anger so that you can have a normal, positive attitude towards life. So, what are some of the strategies that you can use? Number one is be calm. Talk calm. When you feel like you're becoming angry, bring it down. And I've heard people say, rather than shout, I whisper, or I talk very calmly or very quietly, let the people know that I'm not going to react to this. Sometimes children, not all the time, but sometimes children, they even expect you to get angry and go out of control. But when you don't, then how do you think that makes them feel? Hmm, no, I'm not going to react to that. I'm going to remain in control. So you're going to talk calmly and you're going to listen. You're going to speak clearly and you're going to make sure that whoever you're talking to, the child or an adult, understands what you are saying. And you want to also make sure that you listen carefully at what they are saying as well. Sometimes children react because they react towards us because they don't really understand what we're saying. So here's an example. A mother goes into the child's room and the mother says, pick the room up and pick it up quickly. So the little child is standing there at the door thinking, okay, now what corner do I start with to pick this room up? How do I do that? So as the child is contemplating, what does mom mean? Pick up the room. Because you have to remember that children think literally, not figuratively. They think literally. The child is actually envisioning him or herself picking up the room. Mother then comes by the door and said, did you hear what I said? And why is it that you're not doing what I said do? Clean this room up now. Ah, that's what she did. Clean it up. So then the child gets busy, starting picking up the books and the little blocks and whatever. Mother then comes by the room again. Oh, well, thank you very much. What took you so long to understand and do what I said do? Well, what took them so long was they didn't understand what mother or father meant by whatever they said. So we have to make sure that whatever we say is understood by the children. And be logical. Make sure that when you become angry, make sure that it's logical. Realize that children are not just there to get you upset. And I've heard so many parents say, they're just doing that to get me upset. No, they're not. They don't have that kind of reasoning ability. They do things because they're egocentric and they do it because they want to do it, but they don't think about the consequences. So it's not, they don't do things just to get you. That's not how they operate. And don't make generalizations. Many times we say never and we say always. Always they do this, they don't never do what I say do. That's not the truth either. So get rid of the generalizations. So now, what are some strategies for anger? How do you get rid or how do you manage your anger? First, try to calm yourself with relaxation methods. One of the greatest ways to relax is to do deep breathing, slow, deep breathing. Do that about 3 or 4 times. Now that calms you down. That's bringing in extra oxygen, calming yourself down. And then maybe picture some kind of a relaxing scene, maybe at the beach or you're on a mountain looking down at the waters or whatever the case might be. Something, visual imagery that you can actually see that calms you down. Something that it calms you down. Not what I suggest, but what calms you down. And then sometimes it might be repeating relaxing words or phrases that might say, okay, I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be calm. I'm not going to say anything. I want to be quiet. Repeat those words to yourself and see how that works. Now, you should know the signs of an impending storm. So, anger management strategies. Know the signs. Know the signs of what's going to get you upset. And then use what is called a timeout, or when you count to 10 in order to bring yourself down or to manage your anger. Don't let it control you, you control it. And then you figure out what's getting you upset. Why am I getting so upset about this? What is going on? If a person is talking to you and you becoming upset, or their voice gets louder, yours gets louder. Why is this happening? What is going on? Why am I reacting like I'm reacting? So you mentally go through some of the reasons why you are responding to the way you are responding. And then sometimes it might just take leaving the room. Okay, I'll see you later. I can't talk about this right now. That's another great way of calming the situation, is moving out. Another strategy is to use the word I. When you speak to me like that, I feel very dismissed, or I feel disrespected. Many times we throw out you very quickly, but we should use the I word first. I am not feeling comfortable with that, with the way you're responding to me. Talk about the I. And then try not to get defensive. No one is trying to, well, I'm not going to say no one because they do, but try not to get defensive. And we should teach our children this. And also, this is a part of respect. If an adult speaks to you as a child, then don't become defensive. I don't have to do what you say do. No. Teach our children to be respectful and to listen to what adults have to say. It makes a difference in how they respond later on in life. And examine your expectations of your child. What do you expect from your child? What do you expect? I told my son, it's a non-negotiable for you to argue with an adult. That is not acceptable. And you will not do that. You will never argue with an adult or be disrespectful to an adult. So this young man came up to me at church and he said, your son was very disrespectful to me. And I asked him, well, what did he do? Now, this young man was, you would say he had mental challenges, but it didn't matter to me. He was an adult. And he knew what my values were, and he knew what my rules were. So he came up to me to tell me about my son, how he disrespected him. So I called my son to me and I said, why am I talking to this gentleman here? And he said, because I disrespected him. I said, and what did you do? He said, well, the man came up to me and said, thus, and I told him to shut up and mind his own business. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing at that. So after I calmed myself, I looked at him and I said, and what are the rules? He said, I'm never supposed to disrespect anyone, to disrespect an adult. And I said, and because you did, now what do you have to do? He said, I have to apologize. And I said, that's exactly what you have to do. So he looked at him and he said, I'm sorry for disrespecting you. Now, I could have said something different. I could have said, well, he's not all there anyway, so what difference does it make? But no, he was an adult and he knew that I was the parent and he knew that I needed to handle it. And so I did. My son apologized and it was over. So we have to make sure that we let our children know the rules and regulations and then make sure they operate within those. So then, as an adult, we don't get angry about situations because it's out of our purview. We do not worry about something that our child has done because it is something you've already handled. All right. And then many times when when you begin to get angry and upset, sometimes it's just good to just wait. Don't say a word. Just stop. Just stop. And the person will say, well, what are you going to do? Nothing. Not right now, anyway. I cannot handle it at this moment. Now, something too is something that we need to do and do more of it. We need to laugh more and have more humor. Sometimes everything is not that serious. And we think everything is so serious and it should be this way or that way. Uh, give it a break. Everything is not so serious. So use some humor and laugh about it and just let it go. And give yourself a break. Sometimes you have to get away. Sometimes you just have to. I know my sister and I said we were going to take what was called a mental health day. And so we just got in the car and drove down the street. We didn't want to deal with anybody. And off we went. So sometimes you take a break. It makes a big difference as well. How many of you have said, well, I wasn't really angry anyway. That didn't make me mad and you were mad as the devil? How many of you have said that? If you are angry, admit it. I was angry. It made me very upset. That's okay. As a matter of fact, that's healthy. To cover over the anger is not healthy. Remember that you can admit to being angry. Anger is a normal human emotion. And express your feelings. Let the person know that you're dealing with, I didn't like the way you said that, or I didn't like the way you do that, or why you're looking funny at me, or whatever the case might be. But you express your feelings and let the person know how you feel. You don't have to go through a long dissertation of what you're saying. I think that's another big a negative is that we take forever and a day to say what we have to say. Make it short, make it sweet, and get it over with. Once you express your anger, put a period behind it and move forward. Don't keep on going back and forth and rehash it and hash it over. Not necessary. Once you've done what you're going to do, that's enough. And learn how to apologize. That's one thing my father was good at. He would say he was sorry in a minute. And I really value that because sometimes you do make a mistake. Sometimes you do become angry and then you realize, oh, that was not necessary. So then apologize. I'm sorry for what I said or what I did. It makes you the bigger person. And the child especially values that. I value the fact that my father was always able to apologize when he felt like he had not done what was right by us. He would apologize in a minute. And another one in terms of anger management is take time for yourself. You are value you. You are an important person and you are the most important person in the world. Because if you're out of the world, you can't do what you do. So take time for yourself. What makes you happy? Going to lunch, little shopping spree, and I was going to add that. Little things, going with seeing, talking to your friends on the telephone, whatever it is, take time for you. That makes a real big difference. What I hate to hear a parent say is that they don't have time for themselves and they work themselves to death and they do something for everybody else. And let me tell you something, nobody appreciates a martyr. They really don't. If what they do to you is what you let them do. So if you value you, everyone else will value you as well. Avoid physical force. And I don't want to say never, but very rarely threaten or attack the child or blame the child. Do not hit them, do not threaten them, do not attack them or blame them for what they do. Be very careful with that. All right, what are some parting thoughts? Hmm. Just because you get angry does not mean you do not love your children or your child. Remember, anger is a natural human emotion. But now, finding a way to handle your anger is the work of a lifetime. And we all need to manage the anger that we might express. And it's going to take a lifetime to do that. So, those are my parting thoughts to you.